Hey everyone, welcome to Handing the Shame Back, a channel dedicated to adult men and women who have survived child sexual abuse. We know our numbers are big out there, which is why I'm going to keep doing this work and bringing you the wonderful survivors among you that are happy to share their stories. Why? Because one thing they might say may help you or someone else in the survivor community understand a little more of their own story. As with all survivor interviews, there is a trigger warning, and that is that if you feel triggered at all or upset in any way, please do stop watching. Go to the show notes below and you'll be directed to some help and resource. In the meantime, I've got a fabulous guest for you today, and she comes to us all the way from Aotearoa, Canada. She's a singer, she's a survivor, she's an advocate for VHL, which is a Van Hippel-Lindau disease. And that is a form of cancer. So she's personally experienced all of this, had multiple surgeries. We're very lucky she's here with us today. So welcome to Kerry-Anne.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
How are you doing over there in Canada?
I'm doing well, thank you. Weather looks like it's starting to turn to spring.
Well, we're the opposite, Kerry-Anne. So we're looking at heading into autumn, and everyone's in denial because we didn't feel we had a summer. But there you go.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. We had a big, long winter.
Hmm. All right, I'll let you have your summer. Hey, so as with all things, it's really valuable for us to hear your story as little or as much as you're prepared to share. Clearly, you're a survivor. So, Kerry-Anne, what would you like to share with us?
Well, if we start from the beginning, I was born in 1977, and we'll shorten that up to 1982. Well, 1981, both my parents had passed away, and I had moved into foster home in 1982. And I went through 11 years of abuse by not only my own blood brother, but by my two stepbrothers, whom I lived in the foster family with. And that was horrible. And it was something that I endured on a daily basis. And not to be like trite or anything, but it was, in a dark basement and just all the horrible things you can imagine that happened and did happen to me when I was young at 4 years old. And the youngest abusee being at the time 7, and the oldest being 14.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm really sad to hear that. And your brother was complicit in that. Where did he fall in? How much older was he than you, Kerry-Anne?
My brother was adopted with me into the same family, and he was 3 years older than me.
Okay.
And I was told that he was abusive to me before my parents had passed away. So I do believe that this kind of abuse was learned somewhere. I do not know. And from a 7-year-old, it's a very young age to be abusing someone younger than them. I'm assuming as them not even knowing what it is. And yeah, and so as I got older, I learned that as well. Um, yes. So go ahead.
So is your feeling or thinking that something did happen prior to your parents passing, or do you think that was something that people decided should be the story?
I I do believe something must have happened. I do believe a lot of people repeat their abuse. Not myself, not everyone, but some people do repeat their abuse onto other people. And so that could have very well been an option for him. And I have no idea what would have happened as I was so young. I was 3 when my mother passed away, and 3 months later, I turned 4. And oh, sorry, we'll repeat that. My mother passed away after my dad. My dad died in May, and my mom died in August of 1981, and I turned 4.
Wow.
So I lost both my parents, and my grandfather died. It was a rough year. My uncle died, so I wasn't left many options, and then put into foster care, and then this continued abuse happened.
And this went on for 11 years?
Yeah, from the time I was 4, from as far back as I can remember, 4, to 9 days before my 16th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you manage to deal with that, knowing that the house you were in, the parents of the abusers were the ones caring for you? Can you tell us about that dynamic at all?
It's the parents weren't very nice to me. So I was physically abused by the parents and the stepdaughter, who was my sister. So then I had that going on, as well as sexual abuse. And my sister liked to physically abuse me too. So I had all of this going around. And I swear the only way I could deal with it was by handing it off to God, a spirit, somebody. I felt that being so young as I was, there was just no way I could possibly handle it. I remember as a child crying into my pillow, praying for God to take me, that
Yeah.
someone so young shouldn't have to go through this. Is this what every single person in my life is going to do to me? Why do I deserve this? Is this how life is? I had so many questions and no one to ask. And if a children's aid worker were to sit in front of me and ask me, do you think I would give them an honest answer, because I was terrified for my life? So no. And there's a lot of regret that way. And still with the children's aid today, and still with things going on, I hope that by someone watching this, they have a sense of they can understand what I've been through what they've been through, and can feel a connection between the two of us, just by watching this. And that's all I can hope for.
And that is 100% what's going to happen. So, Kerry-Anne, you're doing really well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about, you used the word regret, and I just want to come back to that, because you were a small child conditioned from, a very young age to be abused. And that went on not for a small period of time. That went on through all your formative years, right up till you were nearly 16. So there's no way you could have done anything differently. So I just want to give you permission to feel that sometimes when people think, well, why didn't you, or how come you never,
Mm-hmm.
then realize, and for our beautiful audience watching as well, I think it's powerful to know this truth. If you, as an older child or a teenager, have abuse happen again, or willingly go into that basement knowing it's going to happen again, you really aren't that age. You really are the age it first began, because we are immediately transported back to feeling that vulnerable, helpless, and not resourced at all. So please give that beautiful 4 to nearly 16-year-old, give her some kudos, because there was no way you could have changed that outcome, especially when the parents and other siblings, step siblings, were enabling it through their abusive or dismissive behavior.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the parents not being nice to you, can you talk us through the type of experience you had? Because I'm just trying to build a picture for our survivors watching. What was a day like for you in that family, considering you were in there now for, over 10 years?
Yes, yeah. I left 9 days before my 16th birthday. And what I can say is that they were what looked like the perfect family from the outside. And unfortunately, it happens more often than not that things are kept behind closed doors. And that's what happened. They did look like the perfect family from the outside, in school, in work, and everything that they did. And then behind closed doors, the parents weren't sexually abusive. They were physically abusive. And I also a Cinderella effect. I felt that that's kind of what I was, not the only adopted child. It was myself and my brother, and later on another girl. But felt like we were made to clean and do things such as that, which is also a form of abuse. So on every angle, I had another form of abuse to deal with. So going to school was a huge outlet for me, and same with my singing. I learned to sing at a very young age. I believe Islands in the Stream as Dolly Parton. And yeah, and that's what kept me going, was seeing her and just that thought that there's another world out there, and this just can't be it. It just can't be. So that's yeah.
So there
That's
was
how I feel.
always a little bit of hope in there. You
Yeah.
were able to find that. That's amazing. With with your brother, when you talk about him, carrying a couple of things actually. So being abused by his stepbrothers as well. Was he sexually abused by them or physically abused by them at all?
My brother?
Yes.
Not as far as I know.
No, okay. So he wasn't the target, but the step parents made sure that he wasn't treated as well as their children.
I think, well, they were all treated normal. Like, he was treated normally, everybody but me.
Okay.
I was the only one who wasn't. That's why I kind of had like the Cinderella effect thing going, where I was the one who would clean the baseboards with a toothbrush and would do the laundry and hang it on a line for 9 people. And like, we had a big family, they had a big family, and everybody knew the family, and they were the perfect family, and nobody could ever do this family kind of thing from the outside. So that's to bring it back, to what the family looks like. That's it.
So you also describe you had another girl come into the family. How old were you when this other foster child appeared?
Well, I believe it was 1990. So
So
yeah, so I would have been
3 years
13.
before you escaped, yeah. And
Right.
was she subjected to what you were as well, Kerry-Anne?
No, not
No.
as far as I know.
Okay.
No, because it was a secret.
Ah,
And at that time, I was getting to the age now where I had more of a voice.
yeah.
I started to realize that there's an actual world out there, and that what was happening to me wasn't right. That's the reason why. It was 9 days before my 16th birthday I left. That's an entirely different, whole other story too. It got me out of there, and I'm glad I kept the faith.
Okay. I want to come back to that, but
Mhm.
do you think, and look, I'm not suggesting for a moment you would know, but do you think the parents had any idea of what their children were doing to you?
Well, I didn't know. I had said something finally. Well, I did. I said something to my friend who lived down the road, who told her mother, who then called my stepmother. And then that was in 1987. And I got a bad beating and was told I was a liar. Yeah, it was an awful, shameful thing for the rest of the duration of the time was with them. Was I not only felt like less like that they treated me like I was a less of a person because I was adopted. Now this just put me under their shoe.
Yeah.
Like a piece of dirt. And it like almost like gave them a leeway to just always call me a liar and introduce me as their adopted daughter rather than their daughter. Mm-hmm.
So whichever way you turned, it just didn't feel like there was any safe route. But
No.
when you talked earlier about that's a whole other story, do you feel like you'd like to share that with us?
Yeah.
Even 9 days before you were 16, I mean that bit.
Yeah. So nothing happened in 1987 when I was 10. After it was said, it was we moved on, and from that they didn't really say anything to me except I got into physical trouble, and then it's just like they moved on as if it never happened. My sister got married, there was a big wedding, everything like that. So now we're moving forward to when 9 days before my 16th birthday. The day before that happened, we're talking 10 days now before my 16th birthday, I had just broke down. We had I can't say her name, and she lived with us. She was also just adopted, but my stepmother was physically abusing her and had hit her in the face. And so I was explaining, I just had enough. I was at this point cracking. And I had told the girl that sat beside me in grade 9 science class. And I had told her, it just came out. And I guess the teacher overheard her and me, and I didn't know. And so the teacher told everybody to leave, like once they left, and then kept me behind. And she just asked me what's happening. I told her, but that was it. I went home, didn't say anything, went back to school the next morning, and I got called down to the office. And did I not walk into the office, and there was my counselor and my principal and the police. And it was an amazing thing that they were all there, and I was totally scared and I didn't know what to do. And so they pulled me into the room and they asked me what had happened. And so the people in the family were charged initially, but they came to me 3 months later and said it happens over such a long period of time. There was nothing that they could do because it had happened over 11 years. Yeah, I know, which was supremely hard for a newly 16-year-old to hear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that's basically it. I was put into an emergency receiving home, and which is a group home, in other terms, and for 3 months, and then I ended up moving into another group home, and then I moved out on my own. They figured I was old enough and I was mature enough that I could live on my own. So that's what I did.
Kerry-Anne, a couple of men. Whoa.
Yeah.
You're amazing. A couple of things come to mind. One is the power of, even though it was a shock, those adults believe in you. How amazing, how wonderful.
Oh, yes, it's
wonderful. Yeah.
It was finally for once. It was like somebody believes me, and I'm not a liar because they don't know, because it's not proven. I ended up doing a long report with the Caledon police. Doesn't matter if that's out there. And it's all been out there anyways. As it turns out now, that my brother spent 5 years in a federal penitentiary for abusing his own children. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my niece, I went to court for her after I had in 2013, I had my third brain surgery, and I went up there, had my head shaved, and I went up there and got into court, got up there and stood up there and testified to show that this has happened previously, and what would be kind of considered like an organized crime sort of thing, if you will, that it has happened before, showing that he is an abuser and has done this over such a long period of time. that he deserves more time and more of a punishment than someone who has done it over a less period of time.
How did that feel for you, speaking your truth from the witness stand?
I cried. Well, I did cry there. I cried after. Well, I cried because we got to go. I'm say we because I went with my niece's mother, who is his ex-girlfriend, who he had a daughter with a long time ago. Anyway, so she was 13 when we went to court, and I got to go into the courtroom before it all happened and stand there with her mother and just look around. And I'm like, I just can't believe it. She said, "What?" I said, "It's some weird way I feel vindicated." She goes, "Don't, it's not weird. It is. You do, and you deserve it because this didn't happen for you. You know, this didn't happen when you were a kid. And unfortunately, this happened to who it happened to, my niece. And now he's getting caught for it, and I'm sorry that nothing happened to me, like that I could do anything for him then, but at least I was able to go to court and stand up there for her and be the best aunt, you know, that I could be, and continue to be, I hope, as an inspiration for her. So, and
That's
she's
just, wow.
amazing too. Mm-hmm.
That's just so beautiful, and you broke the cycle, actually. So
Mm-hmm.
done you. That's really
Thank
powerful.
you. No one said that. I broke the cycle.
You did?
Thank you.
Yeah. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
amazing, Kerry-Anne. How lucky are we survivors? And for some of you watching this, you will recognise the power of police believing you and perhaps being unable to act, or conversely, being able to stop the cycle of others continuing and that perpetrator being caught. So really powerful, Kerry-Anne, and very grateful to you. The interesting thing, of course, is that if we don't try and do this, the police in New Zealand tell me that there are up to 50 other victims out there. So it is never just one child that these people abuse. They will carry on until
Mm-hmm.
they get stopped. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With your, were you ever able to try and take this further? I know as a child they said no, they can't do anything, but were you ever able um, to do anything further for yourself, as in talk to or convey the truth to anybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was able to put in an application to the Criminal Compensations Board and explain the horrid abuse that I've been through, and for such a long period of time. It's almost to the point of a war veteran, like the point of having to survive what I'd been through. And so I've had lots of counseling and things to help me through. And the they helped me with the Criminal Compensations Board by getting out my word. And not only did they find me, like find that I was right, they also wanted my case to be an example for others. They count the case between $0 and $25,000 of severity, and they almost gave me, well, they pretty much gave me all of it, saying that you have got to be, if not any case I've ever seen, that deserves this more than anybody else. And yeah, and so to hear that was a little disheartening. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird feeling. It was good, but yet it was sad because a lot of the times I don't take in exactly what is given, what exactly, and I just kind of, as an abuse survivor, people do. We tend to hold things in and then let them out, and then cry. So, yeah.
Yeah, and look, I understand that ambivalence, because on the one hand, yes, they see the truth, But on the other, then the reality hits. Oh my gosh, that really did all happen to me.
Mhm.
So I understand what you're saying. That's it's what we carry, unfortunately, Kerry-Anne, and I'm so pleased you were vindicated. It feels like you had three examples of vindication, actually. One is the friend you confided in, and let me explain that, and her mother, because you were believed enough that the phone was picked up. So that's one. Second, when your beautiful niece had her day in court and your words were, I feel vindicated. Wow.
Mhm.
You were, in a way, because without your testimony, he would not have got that time.
Mhm.
And then I guess thirdly, having that board give you the full amount. So I'm really pleased that happened, because the truth has a way of lighting up the room, really. And
Mhm.
well done. I'm happy for you that happened.
Thank you.
I mean, I wish I wish none of it had led.
Oh, of course.
What led to
And
that?
there's never any amount of money that would make anything okay. I mean, that's not okay. And I'm glad there's so much that we had the movement of, like time's up, and things like that, where women were like, we've had enough. We not only want to stop being harassed, sexually, and we also just want to start being paid the way we should be. And it shouldn't still be in that, you know, this, I don't know how to put it, in this section of the way that men get paid higher than women when we do the same jobs, if not better,
Yeah.
than the men. And the yeah, I don't want to get into the whole Harvey Weinstein and him abusing people, abusing his privilege as a director or someone that has huge sway in the movie community, and just saying to take advantage of that and abuse the people because they want fame so badly. That's just another thing that I just can't imagine, because I love to sing, and I can't imagine someone trying to take an advantage of something that you want so badly. Yeah.
Yeah. When you next hear the term, oh, she slept her way to the top, let's
Mm.
reframe that to, her promotion was only guaranteed if she agreed to be abused
Yeah.
by the
Yeah,
men.
exactly. And that's terrible to
I
think.
just want to call something out here.
Of course.
Men get abused horrifically.
Yes, yes, yes.
There is Me Too, but my hope is that we start to realise our beautiful survivors, male and female, we stand together.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
There
And
are
I by no means didn't mean that men don't get abused either, because I've watched some horrific stories on men being abused by their spouses. And yes, it just like cancer, it doesn't discriminate.
no, it doesn't.
So,
So, but I
mhm.
think it's interesting, because there's also reports suggesting that up to 30% of sexual abusers are women. So well, no one wants to accept it, Kerry-Anne.
Of course not,
So,
because women are the nurturers.
yes,
How
but
could someone take something so
look at
beautiful into ugly?
yeah, look at the enabling that goes on. Hey, but look, I guess just moving forward a little, what
Mhm.
helped you? What helped you survive these, nearly 13 years of abuse? What helped?
Faith. People just gotta have faith, and it doesn't necessarily mean, if that's not God to you, it just means faith, period.
Yeah,
Faith, period. Faith that something is going to get better. Like what is happening to you will come to an end, and somebody will, get whatever is coming to them through karma. And that's how I dealt with a lot of things too. I believe in that, in karma, and that things, what goes around comes around. And I had to literally leave everything, like, Jesus, take the wheel. I was too young to handle it on my own, and my parents had passed, and so they were also my, what I call, like, it's a, my, like, what would my parents do if they wanted, would they want me to go to high school? Would they want me to go to college? That kind of thing. So that's what just kept me going, was the fact that you can do this, you can get through this, you may be small, but you're mighty. You can do this.
I love that.
Mhm.
And you're singing, so good old Dolly Parton, eh? Islands and
Yes. Not so much now,
Yeah.
Jolie. No.
No, I should sing. You're the singer. We don't want to frighten our audience. All right, audience. You can
Yes,
stop
that's why I'm not. You can see
laughing.
me on my TikTok channel. I sing on there.
We'll have all your links below the show notes. So, what would advice, what advice would you give to other survivors watching this that maybe aren't quite as along the healing path as yourself, Kerry-Anne? What would you advise people who are struggling?
I would say have faith in yourself. It's something no one's ever said to me, and it's the truth. You have yourself, and you and your only self, and you are who fights for you. And so keep the faith in yourself that you are strong enough to survive. You will get through this, and someday you can work through it in a different way. I find singing is my art. People have art like paint. My niece paints, and she's beautiful at it. Like, she's great at it. I love what she does, such a great spirit. And anxiety got me a lot when I was younger, and the fear of death that happened to creep in more, I believe, because I was abused. I just kept thinking about sad things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get them, and a lot of the time when people are abused, they self-harm or think about suicide or things of that nature. And my other thing is also that I'm not going to let them win. I will never, ever let someone else win. It just won't happen. It just can't happen. And so I live my life as it is now. And that section of my life I call, it's like compartmentalized, if you will. And it's there. And I've talked about it and through my life, and continue to, and as I am now, and want to help other people with it. That's the number one thing I could say is deep breaths. You will get through this. You can get through this because you love you and you depend on you, and you'll get through this.
That's amazing. Is there, and I love what you're saying, have faith in yourself, because I think that, for our audience watching, you have to have your own back. And if that simply means that you buy yourself a nice coffee, or sit in the sun at lunchtime, or just reassure yourself that you're doing a great job today because you're getting through today. That's all the little steps towards having your own back.
Yeah, a day at a time.
Yeah, I think what was taken from us can't be regained, but what can be built is knowing who we are. And we don't bury our trauma, we learn to accommodate our trauma. And
Absolutely.
as Kerry-Anne has said, what she does with her singing is a great outlet. What her niece does is paint. I'm not sure what I do. I think I talk a lot. Oh, I write. That's right. But we all have different outlets, and whatever it is, make it yours and make it special. Kerry-Anne, are there anything else you would like to share with us today? Anything else about your story, or about your healing, or about the wonderful survivor you are that you would like us to know?
I would like everybody out there to know who's been through something similar. It doesn't matter what you've been through, and don't be mad at yourself. It's not your fault. And to love yourself, give yourself a great big hug, because you're the one that's going to love yourself in the end, no matter what. And that's what's got me through, is that I want to be that inspiration and shining light for other people. And I hope that that rubs off to the next person and so forth, and pay it forward, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, we're all energy. Everything about all of us impacts the person we're talking to or the people that are watching. So make sure your energy counts. It just takes a little flame to light the path. So I think, Kerry-Anne, I thank you so much for your words today. And I just want to close out with the audience. Please just stay there. The audience, how lucky are we? You know, I think hearing Kerry-Anne's story brings it back, doesn't it? How being vindicated can be such a powerful thing, and it can be a simple thing. And I think one of the things she said was being in that courtroom, even though it wasn't her trial, in a way, it was. Had it not been for her, her brother would not have received the prison sentence he did, and her niece would not necessarily have been able to come forward as easily. So the power in that is really impressive. I think too, she said initially handing it off to God, handing it off to whatever you believe in that is bigger than yourself, and not to diminish at all Kerry-Anne's belief, but we all have differing beliefs. So believing in something bigger than yourself can sometimes be the way through for us. So as we finish today, please know that I see you, I stand beside you, and I believe you. Please do like, subscribe, and share this video.